Hi, I'm Gary Null. Nice to have you with us today. Today, we're going to talk about elements that we're not generally using in our diet or even supplementing that can make a big difference in our health. And we begin with a META analysis. That means many different studies that affirms the benefit of ginseng, especially in type 2 diabetes. Well, between diagnosed diabetics and undiagnosed pre-diabetics, you're talking about nearly 90 million Americans. All right, that's a lot of people, or about a little over 1/4 the American population. This was Ginseng University in China. It was published in the journal Medicine, and it showed that ginseng, and there are several different types of ginseng, and I suggest either the red root ginseng, is very good, but almost any ginseng is going to benefit you. And it's really beneficial when it comes to helping those with impaired glucose tolerance, meaning you don't have an even blood sugar, can go up and down depending upon what you eat or whether you exercise. And what they found was that they had 195 participants treated with ginseng and an equal number who were given a placebo. And it revealed improvements in fasting glucose, post-meal insulin levels, meaning what happens to your blood sugar after you eat a meal, and then insulin resistance, as well as reduction in triglycerides. You don't want elevated triglycerides. And total and low density lipoproteins, that's a bad LDL cholesterol. You don't want that elevated. And right across the board, those who took the ginseng had much better blood sugar and these lipid profiles. So if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, try putting ginseng, 100 milligrams, into your diet each day. Want to lose weight? How about trying chewing your food thoroughly? Who says? Waseda University in Japan. Take your time when you're eating. Put your fork or spoon down in between each bite. Masticate your food. By the way, it's scientifically proven, and I wrote a whole article on this. I wrote a book on this way back called Why Your Stomach Hurts. And it's because people are eating highly acidic food, drinking coffee, which is also anabolic and acidic, causing GERD, gastric distress, and also causes a real big increase in esophageal cancers. But when you're chewing your food, masticating it, two things are happening simultaneously. Underneath your tongue, there's two tiny little holes, right there. And as you chew, saliva is secreted out of the holes. Now, in the saliva are two primary enzymes, amylase and ptyalin. Those then, when you're chewing and masticating, creating what we call the bolus, the mass, they're breaking down the complex sugars, the polysaccharides, into simple sugars, the disaccharides or monosaccharides. As a result, your real digestion starts in the mouth by proper chewing. Just take your time, appreciate the taste of your food, the mouthfeel, and don't swallow everything down with a liquid, especially a cold liquid, because remember, that is cold and your stomach is a little over 97 degrees. So now you have cold and probably acid, like acid from a cola, and it's going into the stomach, hitting your digestive acid, hydrochloric acid, and that creates a hyperacidic condition that can cause bloating, diarrhea, but also it can cause spilling. And what do I mean? There's a dumping when your stomach is overfull. When you've eaten too much, you've expanded as far as it can expand. Now, at the top of the stomach, you have a little flap. It's the cardiac sphincter. At the bottom, you have another flap. It's a different sphincter. And that sphincter opens when the stomach is too full and starts allowing only partially digested food into the intestine. The trouble is the intestine cannot do the digestion because it doesn't have the acid. It's deacidified. So as a result, partially digested food will not benefit us at all, goes in the intestine. And some of that, if you have a leaky gut, goes into the body. Guess what happens? You end up with a serious situation and leaky gut syndrome. And then your antibodies are going crazy trying to neutralize what they call these invaders. Here's my bird. She comes over every day and sits on my shoulder. Her name is Sweetie. She's a Boongo Macaw. She was abandoned at 3 months, so I was given her to take care of her, and I've been taking care of her ever since. She sits quietly there. In any case, so if you're watching now, you're seeing little Sweetie up there. And she sits there when I do my writing here at night. Back to the point. So take your time, eat your food, and the more you chew, what you're going to have is you're going to prevent excess calories coming into the body. And because people are used to eating very fast, 1-2 bites and down, 1-2 bites and down, and overflowing the stomach with liquid, don't do that, all right? What you want to do is the study showed that the act of tasting and the act of chewing increases thermogenesis, regardless of the consistency of the food itself. It also found tasting and chewing increases the movement of food through the upper GI tract. So eat slow. Eating brings mindfulness into your meals, giving your brain time to realize you're full. The result, eat less, which is a key to a good weight loss program. Also from Barcelona's Institute for Global Health, a new study, children with higher exposure to air pollution and lower exposure to green space, trees and plants, I have 62% increase in ADHD. Now that has nothing to do with brain chemical imbalances we've been told that they have. That has to do with children need to be outside. They need to be in nature. They need to be running and yelling and screaming and playing. They need that. And we used to have that. And now we have these, not just soccer moms, but we have these people that are having their children raised under micro supervision. That is not good. So just remember, children living where there's lots of pollution and less green, they're going to have greater ADHD. And finally, melatonin supplementation is shown to improve heart failure outcomes. Yes, this is a major university medical science study. And this was published in Clinical Cardiology, found improvements in what is called NT-proBNP. That's part of what goes on. And when this is released by the heart, that when elevated can be an indicator of heart failure among heart failure patients who receive supplements that contain melatonin. So the bottom line is when you take melatonin, you're helping yourself if you've had a heart condition. Just saying. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I won't be zooming it then. I'm going to do an in-depth commentary. And I decided to do this commentary based upon some calls that came into my office in New York, and they were speaking with Sharon, my archivist for decades and decades and decades. And they said they're just confused by all the stuff that's going on in the world. There's just so much happening. They can't make sense of it. And could I try to make things understandable for them? What's really going on? So when we return, I'm going to do an in-depth commentary, probably taking the rest of the hour, on looking at all the pieces, bringing all the moving pieces together to try to make sense of the world we're living in today. Back in a moment. Please stay with us.